What I've got here is an early Victorian camera, a Calotype, and what interests me about this is that the golden age of photographic invention pretty much coincided with the golden age of spiritualism, that time when people were trying in various ways to get in touch with the dead, the departed, those who had passed beyond the veil. And one way was by trying to take photographs of them, which is what we are going to try and do in a minute. But some background first, because a lot of very serious people believed that this was possible, including the physicist Sir Oliver Lodge and the creator of Sherlock Holmes, the writer Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. It was unfortunately also a golden age of spiritual fraudulence, when all kinds of fake mediums and shysters, hucksters, charlatans were putting on fake seances and indeed taking fake spirit photographs. Sir Arthur Conan Doyle fell for a notorious hoax perpetrated by two small girls called the Cottingley Fairies, who claimed that they'd taken photographs of fairies at the bottom of their gardens. In fact, what they had done was to cut out paper pictures of fairies, stick them on thin wires and photograph those. Sir Arthur Conan Doyle fell for it, hook, line and sinker, to his later embarrassment, and it did rather set back the cause of spirit photography. But that's not necessarily a bad thing, because it meant that anybody claiming to do it needed to do it beyond reasonable doubt. The burden of proof was on them that there was no trickery involved. And in some ways, the Calotype is the ideal instrument for this, because it is really nothing more than a box, an empty box, as you see. If you were here, I'd invite you to inspect it. And in the back of the box there is a slot on the top, and that is where the photographic plate goes. The photographic plate is a thin sheet of glass, one side of which has been coated with silver iodide. And I've got one here in this envelope. It's light sensitive, so for us to look at it, I'm going to have to switch on the red light and turn off the main light. Now, as I say, we want no suspicion of chicanery, so I'm going to show you the plate. And if you were here, I'd invite you to examine it, but you see on one side it has the plain glass, the other side has the silver iodide coating, and there is actually a label on top on which I've written today's date, 14th of October 2024. If you were here, I would invite you to photograph it. I'd invite you to write that yourself. Now, I still need to keep the red light on as I put the plate into the Calotype, and the lens goes on the front. Now, these early cameras didn't have bellows, which you might have seen. The bellows were there so you could adjust the focal length between the lens and the screen. This one, you have to change the lens if you want to change the focal length, but this one is set up to photograph portraits, which is obviously what we need to do. And when I've got this one in, I can turn the light on and we can adjust the distance. So we have here a screen, a blank screen, and the focal length needs to be something like, well, exactly 2 feet for if we're going to get a sharp image. There we go. And now the lens cap is on, so there's no light coming in at the moment. And again, I feel almost embarrassed to mention this, but some people might suspect that there was some fraud going on, but this glass plate is the same plate that you saw was in the envelope and went in the slot. Right, we'll take the lens cap off, and we need to wait for about 15 seconds. It doesn't always work. In fact, I would not, if it hadn't worked, I would not upload. If it doesn't work, I won't be uploading this video, so hopefully we can be pretty certain that if you're watching this, it has worked. But let's have a look now. Let's take the plate out. And yes, what we have here is an image of, I think, a Victorian woman who is with us in the room. Now, I'm going to just leave the image here. And there's no editing of this video. What I'm going to do is speed it up for the next 5 minutes or so. So you can have a look at what happens to the picture. So as you see, if the frame, if the plate is continually exposed to light, unfortunately the picture fades. I guess that's because spirits are inherently impermanent, they're transient, and I have not yet found a way of fixing the image on the plate. But there we go. And again, not because I don't think you trust me, but because the burden of proof is clearly on the photographer. We can look inside the box one more time and see that there is nothing there. There's no additional plate of glass or piece of film that's been removed or added. Well, make of that what you will. That's spirit photography.